So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to give some definition to what is this whole user-based logic thing. I want to give it a very simple definition. I would say user-based logic is creating a unique and secure app experience for various users or user types within your application. So let's break this down into kind of two macro categories. We'll first approach it from a data angle, and I'd like to just give you a brief presentation. I'd like to give you a brief presentation of the typical data flow going from your database to your AppSheet app. So within this flowchart, you'll see on the one hand, we have a database. In the middle, we have our AppSheet servers. And then finally, we have our AppSheet application. Now, the way that data generally flows in AppSheet is on the left-hand side, you've got your database, you have all of your table data in your database, and then you move toward AppSheet servers. And there are one of two places, depending on your backend, that these sorts of filters can be applied. If you have a Google Sheet, your data is filtered at the AppSheet server level, which means that it grabs all of your table data from the database, brings it onto its servers, and applies row-level filters that then create subsets of data that then later into your application. If you have a Cloud SQL database or something like that, AppSheet is actually going to employ active database filtering, which means that instead of applying the filter at the AppSheet server level, it actually applies the filter at the query level whenever it queries your tables, which is it's just more performant. You already get an advantage by using a Cloud SQL database. Generally, you have around 30% better read times from your tables. So if you had 10,000 records in a Google Sheet versus 10,000 records in a SQL database, same column structure and everything, you're generally going to get about a 30% faster read time from your Cloud SQL database. But that's a side note. So security filters are server-side, which means they're happening either at the database level or at the AppSheet server level. And then AppSheet will pass in the filter data to the app client, at which time it then calculates any slice level filters that you have. So why does this matter related to user-based logic? Well, if we want to create a truly secure experience, the best approach is to limit data from ever entering the application. So in some cases, that may not be fully achievable, but whenever it is achievable, it's best to try to employ security filters based on user roles or other user properties that we know through our data sets that we can then employ on one or more tables that will reduce the amount of rows that enter the application, make sure that it is not just relevant, but it is the most secure data that we can possibly present to that specific user or user type, user base, whatever you want to call that. So secondly, I would like to talk about user-based logic and how it impacts the user interface. So AppSheet apps are they're fantastic no-code tools that provide us a very quick deployment option whenever we are trying to create data-driven applications. Now, AppSheet out of the box, I think gives us in the ballpark of 9 different view types. You may have to check me on that. In fact, I should probably do my homework and pull up an AppSheet app to verify that. So that's what I'm going to do on my other screen. All right, so just took a look. My intuition served me poorly. There are 11 different view types that AppSheet gives us access to. Among those are deck views, table views, calendar views, dashboards, detail views, form views, and a couple others. Now, that's a very nice start, but as you go on throughout your application development journey, especially once you've been in this tool for a couple years, you'll find that there are certain limitations to these views where you kind of want to push the limits and you want to create an app experience that AppSheet may not give you right out of the box. So user-based logic concepts are going to help us achieve the same function while working within the frameworks that AppSheet gives us with the view types that we have access to, and then it's filtering and dynamic logic through things like client side actions. Now, uh, generally, this is going to manifest in one of two different, I would say, experiences. So the first is going to be a dashboard where you are filtering data based on user properties, or you're going to be filtering data based on a specific variable that you may have stored for a given user. And the second is going to be a sequenced view flow. So this is a sequence of views that a user is going to navigate to in succession. And as you go through that flow, it's going to dynamically filter data for them or take them to a maybe an intuitive but not necessarily an orthodox in destination from what you may be used to as an AppSheet developer. Finally, user from a user interface standpoint, user-based logic is going to help us create dynamic dropdowns, filter those dropdowns for the specific user type that we may be, uh, you know, manifesting an app experience for, and then also it's going to help us with view and column show logic. So when do I show certain columns? When do I show specific values within those columns? And then finally, when do I show certain views? So there may be primary menu views that are only relevant to certain user types. And so user-based logic concepts are going to help us achieve all of those things.